business side of it, so I'm gonna go exactly the opposite and start with some creative stuff.
So it's good to have both sides of the
Please,
story.
yeah, absolutely.
This is kind of interesting because I was speaking with Aaron about this earlier when we were walking around. We're gonna start with Juan. Tell us the moment you knew you wanted to create books.
No, that was like the classic, I was a kid drawing kind of thing. Like, I think my mom took me into a B. Dalton bookstore in the mall.
What's a bookstore?
I know. It's a bookstore in a mall. Yeah, that's
Is
all
that
I
the
got.
link in
We
the
used to have
Apple App
spinner
Store?
racks, EA comics, and I was the only way to get comics, and I got, I think it was like a Star Comics with the Care Bears and like Madball in it and something like that, and a cracked no, it wasn't even a cracked magazine. It was a magazine called Cartoons. That was like magazine. It was like cracked for cars. So I grew up in a body shop. My dad was a body shop guy, so I was always around cars. So I just grabbed that and I was drawing cars. So together, I just wanted to make comics. And then Uncanny X-Men number 31 with Wolverine in the front with Hulk's head on his claws. And I was like, who's this guy with the claws? I don't know who he is. He's just really cool. After that, I was ruined. I was ruined. And I have to say, like, it was one of the things that growing up, like I have friends now, and they're like, dude, you really stuck to it. Like, even since you were a kid, you were like, I'm gonna be a comic book artist. I'm gonna be a comic book artist. I really, there was no other alternative. It was just something I really wanted to do. But I do have to admit, I did webcomics for many years. I was on GraphicSmash.com. It was one of the first big webcomic sites. You know, some of my contemporaries, Scott Kurtz from BBP, and other people came out of there. You know, we started doing, you know, the web was a big deal, and it opened up a lot of doors. But for me, like a couple of years ago, it was with John over there, our publisher. We met up one day, and he was like, "Well, we read your books," and I'm like, "What?" Like, I've never printed my book. I don't know about that. I'm not sure. Like, let's print your books. Next, you know, we're doing conventions and we're printing stuff. You know, we're putting it out there. But I made a lot of stories before that. You know, a lot of crap. I made a lot of garbage.
That's good. It's whether it was 1,000 bad pictures, 1,000 crappy ideas.
I'm still in that 1,000, man.
It's fine.
Those characters. It's all good.
Yeah. So it's a lot of hours of producing and making stuff. But I want to touch one of the things upon like what they were talking about and everything else. When you're dealing with format, like there's one of the things that people talk about, like digital format, print format, you know, web. You really got to do all of them because it's funny how the audience is split up. There's some people that they want it on their tablet. They don't want to go to a comic book shop. There are a lot of people that don't. Nowadays, that's the thing that we're all kind of like, oh crap, you know, because the direct market, which is what is comic books right now. Remember, comic books, what makes it different from anything else is that it became the direct market. It used to be back in the day when you had the spinner rack and everything else. You sell that comic, you rip off the cover, you send it back to the publisher, they paid for it. That's what they do with magazines. They go, magazine doesn't sell, they give you 15 copies of this magazine, you sell 11, you made your money, the last 4, rip off the cover, send it back to the publisher, and you throw away the rest. That's what they were doing. The direct market doesn't do that. That's why we have back issues. Back issues are valuable because they're supposed to be valuable. Depending on that, the whole industry changed. Now with that, you can go on your tablet now. You pay Marvel $50 a year. You can get 27,000 comics and read them. Yeah. You know, so it kind of kills that back issue market unless you're a collector. That's a whole other bag. Variants are coming back. Different covers on it. There's different things like that. Webcomics is variable. I know people that make all their money on webcomics because they're able to sell shirts, their buttons, and this, and advertising. And these are people that are coming in with 100,000, 200,000 people a day. So there's just so many aspects of it, of what you can do with your story. And we have a thing of like, when we make a story, we look at each IP, our intellectual property, as a business. Each one is its own little business. And as it makes or breaks itself. And then sometimes there's stories that you love and you want to get it done. It doesn't happen. It sucks. And you just have to throw it away.
Same question.
Same question.
So I was at a crappy little shopping mall. I don't remember where we were out of town, and my mom had stepped into, what was the thing called again?
B. Dalton. Or there was Walden Books too.
The Walden Books.
Walden
That's what it
Books was the
Yeah,
other one.
It's Walden Books at in the mall. And I was wandering around looking at stuff, looking at magazines and things. There was a stack of comics. There's on the bottom shelf, like somebody was just angry they had to stock them. And I remember seeing the covers for it was Peter Parker Spider-Man 16 and 36, if I remember right. They were both JR covers. And I remember seeing, like, that is so cool. And the way you do Craven jumping down to Spider-Man and everything. I started flipping through it and looking through the art, and I remember that being like, that's the one like time that sticks out in my mind that I looked at. I was like, this art's amazing. I want to do that. If you don't like J.R.R., don't tell me because we'll fight. That's amazing.
He's awesome.
Artist,
I
yeah.
love that.
That's right.
So great.
John Romita.
John
right?
Romita.
John Romita.
Yeah,
So good.
John Romita Jr. Yeah.
Okay. You're like JR, you know,
That's right.
JR from Dallas.
hang out on the
Yeah,
weekend.
JR from Dallas. That's right. No, John Romita Jr. Yeah. But I remember looking through the books and just being like, that's it. That's what I want to do. I need to do this. And then my later epiphany was finding Greg Capullo, who trained himself, because I got into the mindset of, well, I've never had school, I've never been trained, I've never had all these different things. There's no way I can never be an artist. And then I read Greg Capullo's background, and I'm like, self-trained, never had school. I could do this, you know.
Kirby was another one.
Yeah, Kirby's
Jack
another
Kirby.
one.
So you know Jack Kirby, we call him Jack King Kirby. That's a cornerstone of
Yep.
comics, and is the monster of a man who created half the Marvel universe and everything.
Okay.
That guy, had no schooling.
Mhm.
He would literally, his technique was starting on the top left side and drawing to the bottom right side,
Yep.
and that's how it is. Then spend 14 to 18 hours at a table, just drawing, and do like 3 or 4 pages a day,
Yeah.
which is unheard of.
The dude's a hero. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
He's a legend.
A legend. So I mean, Kirby's self-taught.
Yeah, Kirby's another one, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but these are the things I didn't know at the time. So.
But you wanted to do it.
Yeah, that was when I said that was what I wanted to do.
For me, I've never wanted to draw, but I've always wanted to tell stories, and I wanted to do it in the comic format. And for me, it's strange because the people that attracted me in comics were the people that were good businessmen. Will Eisner, who I think is the father of independent comics.
Yeah. Well, father of sequential art.
Look him up if you don't know who Eisner is.
He literally wrote the book and made the term sequential art.
Mhm.
He made it available to teach everybody. And he's the one who said, you can use this for anything. And he used to even do manuals for the Air Force and for the Army.
Yeah, Will Eisner taught me that comics are as much an art form. If you take art, you automatically say, oh, this is art. You take a book, this isn't a form of art. But in America, you take a comic, people are like, eh.
Yeah,
But me, I always thought of it as an art form. Will Eisner, Stan Lee. Stan Lee taught me that there were people behind the scenes that did stuff. And I knew that I wanted to be one of those people. And I like one, and Aaron, I drew a bunch of crap. Yeah, because I didn't have people to draw for me, so I'm like, all right, stick figures. And I would tell the stories, and I would learn from that. And for a long time, I thought, I'm not good enough to do this. I haven't gone to school for this. And finally, a year or two ago, I'm just like, it's time. I'm going to make a comic, and this is all I want to do. This is what I want to do from now until, I want to drop dead with a half-written story on my computer.
That's all we need.
Not today.
Such a terrible tease to your fans, though.
No! Exactly, I'll be legend.
And
Then my kid will like finish it and it won't be half as good, and people will hate that particular work, but then like this stuff even more. I got it all mapped out.
he's taking a little bit of arsenic every day.
I want to be like George R.R. Martin. I don't want to finish Game of Thrones. I want to be this close, and
Quarters of the way through the last book,
and then dot. No, but I want to tell stories, as many as I can. And the great thing is there are so many people in this area. One is actually a recent influence of mine in the last 10 years because I came to South Florida, started doing the cons. I saw Juan doing exactly what he wanted to do, telling stories, going to cons. So I've gotten so much advice from Juan. It's amazing.
None of it good.
Okay, not good advice, but I've gotten advice from Juan. I met Aaron through the cons. The con system is a wonderful way to meet people to work with if you want to do your own comic. It's also a great place to buy comics. And actually, these guys are set up downstairs. This guy's set up downstairs. We're wandering. But yeah, you should check them out during the show.
Yeah, and it's good to go to cons, explore what people are doing, support that scene, support the independent scene, and pick up their books and read them. Because like that, you can also find out too. And like I was saying yesterday, I'm a jealous artist. I'm the first one to be like, if something's really good, it actually drives me to do more. But you know what? If something sucks, it helps too. Because if you pick it up and it's like, wow, this sucks, I can do better. It helps me, And that's even like Marvel, like I'm not talking about your book, Evan. Okay, or we're not picking on you anymore.
Not this time.
I let Aaron draw the book because it was at our jail for him.
Yeah, well, we weren't supposed to talk about that in public. Sorry.
The lawyer didn't expressly forbid it.
You dump one body in the Everglades.
They find you in a playground covered in blood, and everybody goes.
One time.
Just,
The imaginary friend of Tommy's.
wow, that's a true
And the writer.
And you know what? I have no like money in it, and there's no reason I'm saying this. Tommy is a great freaking book. If you gotta buy one book at this con, buy mine. But then look. But then look at Tommy's amazing. It's really good. Seriously. If you like twisted dimension stuff, that's the book you need.
Buy mine, but.
And I would just relate that back to, like, you know, if you're not excited making it, people are not going to be excited reading it. You know, try to do something that you really care about, that you want. You're gonna, because you're gonna have to live with it too. You can't be bored. You know how many times I gotta go? Like I do conventions in New York, San Diego, Chicago, all over the place. And so every time we get to a convention, I have to say the same spiel and tell people about the story and this one guy thought about I can say it in my sleep now. So you have to be like at least excited for it. You know, I'm finishing the third and final issue, so now I'm like, I'm finishing the third issue. You know, I'm all excited about doing it because you have to really live with the project for a very long time sometimes.
the worst thing you can do is not be just sit there with them at the table. That's like my favorite thing. It's like you're sitting there and, hi, is that your book?
Yeah.
What's it about? Space.
If you're doing a con, you have to be on fire.
Yeah.
I can take a book. Let's say this book here looks like crap, right? Looks like crap. It's written like garbage. But if I'm enthusiastic, I can sell it to you.
Yeah.
I can make you walk away with that book.
Totally.
And that's the trick. You gotta get, when you're hand selling, it's a little bit easier than, again, putting it in a store. These guys are nationally distributed now. So now the work stands on its own. If you look at the cover of Rez, pick up that cover of Rez one. It's a freaking awesome cover. It's about a guy who's actually doing Marvel covers right now. He's done some Avengers World covers that are amazing. Jeff DeCal.
Marvel covers.
Don't underestimate how important your cover is. That's one thing if you're making your own book. Cover is all. I mean, obviously you want the inside not to suck. That would be
Metacon.
I've gotten books with covers before.
Yeah.
Everybody has.
No, and then inside, it's like, well, that happens, you know?
Right, this is the thing. This is the art versus the business side.
Yeah.
And it's something that you have to go and you kind of have to make sure you don't trade your soul, but you're gonna have to like sometimes tweak and go and do a lot of things just to grab that money and grab whatever to keep your project going. You know,
You have to be a business.
you have to be a
You
business.
have to be.
It's a business in the end. It's a business. You know.
But it's a business filled with people. Remember that the people you're working for in indie comics more than likely have a day job that actually pays their bills.
Yeah.
You're paying your people, but it might not be their only job. And they probably have girlfriends and kids and video games they want to play and movies they want to go see. So don't expect them to knock out something for you. You know, it takes, I can do a page a day. The book's not going to be done in 30 days.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not because they like to leave the house.
It's arduous. I mean, yeah.
I told him not to, but he still does.
I mean,
He's here.
So
Right here.
Sorry. If you do the math,
Go home and draw on it.
yeah, like if you do the math, and Aaron, I don't know how about you, but for me, if I did a full page, pencils and inks, and I letter my stuff, it'll take me at least a whole day to do that.
If I've got a whole free day.
And it could be something that somebody reads from 5 to 15 seconds. They could read it, unless you have a lot of text. So, you know, look at the trade-off at the energy. Now, what's really awesome is once you have a book done, and you have like, especially a graphic novel where you have it online, it's there forever. And you can always send it to people, you can always show it to new people. And as much as you can feel that you're screaming from the rooftops, you're not really reaching a quarter of what the audience you have.
Yeah.
But one of the cool things about that, though, is a lot of times you can read a book in like 5 minutes, but you get that one image that's just perfect.
Yeah.
You go back to it. You go back to it again and again and again, and
It's constant work too, though, because even if you do a webcomic, I'm sure you can relate to this, getting the readers there, you can't just go, ha, best webcomic ever,
No,
and have people just come just magnetically attracted to it. It's constant. My wife and I used to do one. We did one for about, I think, 3 or 4 years. We were in this comic, and we started out with nothing. We had a nice website and nobody coming, and it was like constantly hitting forums and posting on Facebook and Twitter and da. And slowly, we had 10 people this week. And by the time we finally quit, we were getting 600 like legit hits a week to our webcomic, and it was consistency, not only in the comic and the quality of the comic, but in our harassing people to come and read our comic. And it worked. It worked out pretty well. But it's constant work. You have to be ready for that to get into the field.
And even in the webcomics game, because you guys touch upon it about having a fan and making a fan.
Yeah.
Even then, there's that whole other aspect I always tell people. I don't care about the likes. I don't care about the retweets. I don't care about the followers. Those numbers don't do too much for you. What you really need is that access that those people that get your stuff and they retweet it, they reshare it, they tell their friends. Word of mouth is still king. Because if your buddy comes to you and tells you, hey bro, you gotta check out this book, you're more than 50% likely gonna go pick it up. Just because your friend says it. You know? So it's still king. I mean, because I had an artist, a creator that wanted to work with us and this and this and that. One of the things he said is like, oh, I got 50,000 followers, I got 200,000, I don't know what, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, cool. And I looked at the book and I was like, man, I didn't feel too great about it. So he said, all right, we'll take it for a little bit. Let's see what's going on. I sold nothing. I couldn't sell that to anybody. I would tell people about it and I'm like, what is there? And you know what? In the end, I was speaking about books I didn't like and I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And I believed the hype, and it did nothing for me. So a lot of times, I'm not saying it's not good to have that. A lot of times people will look at that, especially if we've done on our end to the point of having an agent and everything else, and he'll look at stuff like, oh, I have 5,000 subscribers on Zombie, that's something, those are numbers, da 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 da. Doesn't mean anything. Doesn't pay my bills. I can't call FBL and be like, don't turn off my electricity. I have 5,000 subscribers.
Really?
Oh, okay.
Good deal.
Oh, that's fun.
Come back on. Don't worry. Write that on your bill. You can't do crap with that. So, but it's really because we have got just little things. Like I'll go to a con or something like that, and it's just like there's one guy that comes in and he buys original artwork from us. He buys covers. He buys all our books. It's really cool. He's also like 6th generation master baker. Like he's like
What was that?
Baker. Baker.
Oh.
I'm trying to tell a sweet story. And he'll come and like bring cookies and stuff to all of us, and he'll bring like we've had fans that were like thirsty for coffee, come and bring us later. Bless you. Stuff like that. That's just something that you have to cultivate, and if you can cultivate that true follower, there's that article. Was it 100,000? Was it 100? Wait, 100? No, 1,000 true fans. Like a true fan is somebody that'll pay like $100 a year in your stuff. And $100 is nothing. When you really think about it, it's a fan of the stuff that's, what, maybe 2 video games, maybe?
Yeah.
If that.
No, that's one.
1.5,
That's
1
DLC.
quarters.
That's one of those
Yeah,
DLC.
something like that. So if you had that one person that buys $100 of your, if you had 1,000 of them,
Yeah.
that's a comfortable living.
Yeah.
So you have to cultivate that. That's when we do so many conventions and we try to talk to so many people.
Yeah, and be willing to wait for that, because that doesn't come overnight.
No.
These guys have been doing it for a long time. We're at the very beginning of that process, so we don't get to eat for a while. We're hoping to get the master baker to give us some cookies, but
Well, you and I were talking about that earlier today about if when we get issue 1 of Guardians out, we take that to SuperCon, and it's like, hey, we sell like 100 copies of the first book. Yeah, that's killer. That's great. That's not insane numbers, but that's a home run. You got at least that's 100 people with that book in their hand that are going to say, hey, this is a cool book, and tell their friends, and we can build an audience from there.
And we were at that point at one time too. I mean, I go, New York Comic Con costs us about $3,800 to do, roundabout. And that's not the union shaking you down and doing all this stuff.
That's the
And
thing.
while you're there and everything, it's one of the best things. Now, a good year will make $8,000 at it, But then I'll have tour books in front of me, and they made $65,000, and I'm like, wow, you guys are cool. So, but and we're eating, street hot dogs, believe me, it's not that kind of, but you are around it, and this is a scene where a lot of people know each other. There's a community behind it. Everybody talks. It's going to the cons, talking to people, networking.
Yeah, you can't expect like big 2 results off of an indie book. It's not the start. You can get there if your book's good enough and you're consistent enough with it. But we had Gina and I have a friend who went into making an indie book thinking with those numbers, and we both had to sit down with him and be like, you don't need 5,000 copies of your comic. I'm not going to sell 5,000 copies of the comic, as good as it is. And he's got a couple of pro artists that are working for him. They've done work on Spider-Woman and some of the Marvel books, like interior artists for these people. But it's like, it doesn't matter because you have no fan base. You have no previous, what is this? Nothing, no brand establishment. So print 200 and then use the profit off of those to print more. You know, it's
Think
like,
small.
That's how you work.
How many of you guys have heard of a book by Image called Blood Brothers? Okay, how many of you heard of The Walking Dead? For every one Walking Dead, there are 10,000 Blood Brothers. You're not going to be a hit right away. It happened with him, but you remember Kirkman worked at Marvel for many years before he went on his own. That wasn't his first trip to the rodeo. And the chance of a black and white zombie book being the biggest franchise in the market, it's freaking impossible. There's no reason it should have happened except that it was a great book. So you can take a concept that's dated. Concept also, I have this great idea. It's a ninja, and he fights crime. Okay, that sounds horrible, right? But in the hands of the right writer, that book can be a $1 million book.
Yeah.
Batman, Daredevil.
There are no bad ideas.
I was already